right, we're back here in the locker room with Billy Schweim on 97.3 ESPN and the mobile app. It's the Eagles pregame show. I want to get some participation from the listeners today. 609-403-0973 is the text board. Send us your prediction and why. 609-403-0973 is the text board number. Give us a prediction and tell us why you think the score will be the way you predict it will be. Now, it's time every Sunday on our Eagles pregame show. We go to a guy in the know. Let's go to the Barb's Harley-Davidson Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room from Fox 29 News. Of course, 97.3 ESPN's own, 97.3ESPN.com's own, Scott Grayson. What's up, Scotty?
Hey, Billy. How you doing today?
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott. I'm still. I told her in the beginning of the show, I'm still pumped up. We're 5-3-1, and during the week, Doug Peterson said it's a way to he can still motivate his players by having by clinging on to first place with a 3-5-1 record. He can still motivate his troops with that.
It's unreal to me. I mean, it's just crazy to me that we were sitting here a week ago and talking about how, I really didn't see a way the Eagles lost that game. And here we are a week later. They lost to the Giants. And, today, to me, guys, I think the season's on the line. Today, I just got to see a team with fight, with a better game plan. I got to see some things moving in the right direction here, or I'm going to start being ready to, call time of death. It's an important week this week, which is unreal to say at this point in the season, because a lot of seasons are determined in December, and this one may still be. But coming off that loss, I need to see some energy, some fight. I need to see better coaching. I need to see better play all around. There's a lot in my mind I'm looking for today.
Well, this team is I thought last week was a must win. And everybody picked them to win, the Eagles to win last week. I'm skeptical, and I don't think I'm going to pick them until they show me something, Scott.
Yeah, well, I was with you. And as the week went on, I know we'll get to this later, but, I'll say this, that the biggest thing to me that I think is going to be an interesting development throughout the week, and it's the year we're living in, no Myles Garrett. That's a big loss for Cleveland today, in terms of not. And then you couple it back with, and this is another thing I think it's flying under the radar, but Isaac Seumalo's back for the Eagles. They'll have, you take Andre Dillard out of the mix because he was supposed to be the starting left tackle, but they will have essentially their offensive line back for the first time, with the exception of Brandon Brooks, who been out all year. And I think that's an important development. I'm interested to see how this offensive line plays together today, having everything back intact in that regard, and what it means. What does it mean for Miles Sanders? What does it mean, for Carson Wentz? And then on the flip side, again, this is what I was getting at, with Myles Garrett not coming after Carson. That's a big loss for the Browns. So I think those two things together gives you a reason to kind of watch the Eagles offense and watch the play in the trenches. When the Eagles have the ball, how does that offensive line perform? And are they able to give Carson the time in the running lanes for Miles Sanders? Because if the Eagles can control the ball a little better and they have to not turn it over again, then I think this could go their way.
The Browns are 8th in run defense, giving up 104 yards on the ground, and 7th in opponent rush average, 4.0. They're 10th in opponent rush on first down at 3.9. So, a big part of the Eagle reason why the Eagles lost last week, Scotty Grayson, I don't know if I'll tell you, but 0-9 on third downs, and the play calling that Hunter even alluded to this. What is Doug Peterson doing? He's throwing a bomb. It's third and 1 and third and half a yard. He's throwing bombs down the field.
Yeah, there's a time, and when you have the right personnel, that's a good play call. They've done some of that stuff in years past, but you got to have the ability to execute. And no, 0 for 9 on third down is just an abomination. That's another thing that I need to see different from last week. And the play calling, you alluded to it. It's just there's no rhyme or reason to it.
No,
I think this squarely at Doug. He's the one calling the plays. There's no let's run this play to set up the next time we have the ball, running a variation off of that includes this. And you never see a rhyme or reason to why a play is called because they're setting something up down the road. It's just, this looks like a good play to call. I mean, honestly, you and I sitting at home could sit there with Doug's flip card and just point to it and go, let's run that one. And it would be very similar, is what I feel like. And that was a disappointment in a major way to me coming out of the bye, where I thought Doug would have done some self-scouting and noticed different tendencies, different things. Like you've heard it throughout the league. People start saying that the Eagles are becoming predictable. I feel like they are becoming somewhat predictable. And the things that I don't, if you have somebody in your ear who's looking at stats, Miles Sanders was averaging almost 6 yards per carry, but he only had 15 carries. Why are you not giving him more of an opportunity to run at that kind of a clip and wear down the opponent? I think, Doug, look, if you want to pass the ball more, look, you can pass the ball more in the second half once you've worn down the defense with the run. And now your play action works. And like you talked about, yes, the Browns are going to be tough to run against today. But you have your offensive line back, like I talked about. Let those guys go do what they do. And let them try to win that battle before you bail on the run. And in some cases, the run may work, in which case you can try to stay with it. But there's something in Doug's DNA that just I don't know if it just causes him to want to vomit on the sideline if he runs the ball too much. It just doesn't happen.
The Eagles had the third lowest run play percentage in the league at 36.3% through 10 weeks.
Yeah.
You hit the nail right on the head. He's stubborn. He just doesn't want to conform. And we talked about this over and over again ad nauseum, Scott. You get a coach that has players. You got to go to their strengths, what they do best, instead of trying to force them to play your system that maybe they're not comfortable. Like, ask Carson Wentz what plays he wants to run.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I said that last week. Like, let him tell you what he feels most confident running. You got a guy who's struggling with accuracy. He's struggling with consistency. He has made some throws in these games this season where you're like, that was a damn good throw. And then he's made some throws where you're like, wow, that was an abomination. And it could be on the same possession. So there's just a lack of consistency. And a lot of that then shows, like, this is what shows me that is a problem with mechanics. And, we talked about this. He's had to listen to so many different coaches. You never know who or at what point he's like, I already know what I'm doing. I don't need to listen to another different voice. But something's got to change with all of that somewhere. And the stories that came out about him not being good at, a good practice player, it just all goes to this alpha mentality that, the best people in life, the most successful, are the ones who tend to be the most humble. And I don't know if there's any truth to some of this stuff about Carson, but
there's got to be, Scott. With a smoke, there's fire.
Well, when he came in the league, he was humble. He was new at this, and he was eager to learn. He's got to find a way to be that way. If you can be humble, even though you're supposed to be the star, those are the best players. And you look at a guy who stays calm and relaxed and calm, throughout ups and downs. I'll give you two guys who I've seen do this: Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
They never act like they're bigger than the game. But when they have a bad game, they try to say, hey, it's okay. I'm going to fix this. I got this. I don't see any of that or hear any of that coming from Carson.
We're talking with Scott Grayson from Fox 29 News. Of course, you can catch him on 97.3 ESPN.com for Grayson's Grades, and every Monday on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill for Grayson's Grades. Another facet of Doug Peterson's play calling is the fact that he goes for it so often on fourth down and leaves the team. And when they don't make it, the team has a short field to play on. They're 5 for 17 on fourth down tries. And the thing is, it's like when I can see if you're in a situation, I don't know, maybe on the 45 on the way in, but not when you're like, or maybe like the 43, you're just a little bit out of field goal range. But I think he goes for it too often on fourth down and leaves the team in a bad position.
Well, if you're 0 for 9 on third down, I mean, going forward, but that brings up a great point, though, is, sometimes he goes for it on fourth down and you stop and you go, well, if you were going to go for it on fourth down, why did you run that play on third down?
Right.
And that goes back to nothing makes sense. Like, if you think you're in 4-down territory, your goal is, look, I don't need to get a first down on third down here. I just need to get within a yard or two to where I know that I have, the percentages say will convert. And there's none of that. There's no, and you're right. And there's a difference in going for it on fourth down when you have momentum, when you have an electric offense, when you have an offense that you feel can't be stopped. And
when you have a crowd that's inspiring you, and there's no crowd now.
There's nothing there to kind of give you any of a lift. But you don't have consistency from the quarterback position. You don't have consistency with your play calling to even stick with a run that can get you the 2 yards or the 1 yard you need. I don't understand. Like, I like Doug's aggressive tendencies most of the time, but when you have none of that working in your favor, why are you doing those kind of things? Same thing with going for two when going for an extra point will put you within a field goal. I felt like he was trying to win the game there, and it's kind of like, whoa, like, let's pump the brakes here a little bit and just stay within a field goal because you're not exactly lighting the world on fire.
Nah, Scotty, I'm telling you, man, I had a big conversation with a buddy of mine, head coach of the Stanley Cup winning champion a couple of years, 2 years ago, from the St. Louis Blues, Craig Berube, and he was getting on me. He said, "I'm too hard. We're too hard in Philadelphia on Doug Peterson." How much room does he have? I mean, obviously he won the Super Bowl in 2017. How much time does he have? I mean, that he can continue to be mediocre.
Well, I mean, some of those things we've talked about there certainly fall on Doug. The play calling, the decision making, that's all on the head coach for sure. But, I have asked myself, well, if you are Doug Peterson and this is the roster you're given, how would I handle it? And sure, I think I would try to be a little more conservative, but I stop and I think about the whiffs they've had in the draft, the guys they've moved on from that they drafted just even recently. Right. And I start really figuring that, in my opinion, unless this turns around for some reason, Howie Roseman needs to lose the GM responsibility. I'm not saying he's got to go, but I start, and like I've been disappointed. You hear it in my voice every week. I've been disappointed with Doug. I've been disappointed with Carson. But if I had to pick the first place I would point the finger right now, it's at Howie. And I would want to see Jeffrey Lurie take that away from Howie. His player evaluation skills are non-existent.
Yeah,
I don't
never
get
had him.
The guys that he's brought in here. It just needs to get better, and that's where I would start. Would be removing that. I think Howie is a master with the salary cap. His math skills must be amazing, and I'd be willing to keep Howie to do that. Say that is your wheelhouse, and that is what I want you to focus on, and find somebody else who can bring in the talent that's needed around here.
All right, Scotty Grayson, it's that time where we get your pick for this week. 1 o'clock up in Cleveland against the Browns. They're right now, I think the line is 2.5. What do you say, Scott?
All right, this is going to be the last week that I pick the Eagles if they don't win. And I wasn't going to, but like I said, I'm keying on this, and this is what the biggest matchup, and I talked about it before. This is why I changed my mind. No Myles Garrett and a full offensive line essentially for the Eagles back. I think that's a bigger deal than some people have made it out to be. And for that reason, I think the Eagles will have some success on offense. I'm not saying they're going to have 4 quarters of sustained, but I think they're going to have the ability to come out. And this team every year seems to win a game that you don't expect them to win. And I feel like this is that game. This could be that game that tries to make up for losing last week. And I think that they have the ability, if they can get on top early, make Baker Mayfield have to beat you. And if they can do that, I think that this game could go their way. So I think the Eagles are going to win. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be, down to the wire. But I think they'll win 20-17.
20-17. Grayson is still with the Birds. I love